Hey everybody, this is Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. I hope that everybody has had a good week up until this point. As for me, it's been a challenging week. I'm not going to get into the details because it involves other people, and I want to let them have their piece, and some things just aren't meant to be shared. But yet I'm standing here, I'm breathing, so I'm still in the fight, and we're pushing on. You probably noticed I haven't been posting and sharing for a few days now. It's been, like I said, it's been a lot going on, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Dealing with some personal things. Not everything's bad, but definitely a lot of challenges out there. And I was talking to a client this morning, something popped up. I want to remind you, if you believe in the work that we do at the Odyssey Project, it's real simple. We need your support. Now more than ever, I can't tell you how many young black males, first and foremost, that are being brought to me that need the resources that we have available. And we need to be able to meet that demand. That demand is increasingly growing at an unbelievable rate. There's a lot going on, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but we need your support. We also have programs for young black women. My wife is a survivor. I'll just leave it at that. Not that I'm hiding anything or divulging something that anyone who's read her book doesn't know. She was very transparent, probably the most transparent book I've ever read in my life. And I know for a fact she reached a lot of people who needed to hear her story. But I'm not in that place where I want to talk about it right now. That's not what I want to talk about. I don't want to focus on that. But what I do want to focus on, I'm sitting up and I'm talking to one of my clients this morning, and we were sort of talking about some of the things that black men deal with that people really don't give any consideration to. And just out of the blue, she said, black men can't seem to win because they keep taking so many L's. Something to that effect. The L's keep rolling, and it wasn't that blame the black man thing as much as it was black men are going through some stuff and it doesn't seem to be ending, and it seems to be getting worse. And what are we going to do about it? There doesn't seem to be an immediate answer. And my response to that is, we don't want to unpack everything that is on that surface. We don't want to talk about the breadth, and I mean the breadth as in the width and depth of what black men face. There are some that simply just want to be able to blame the black man. Some simply want to look at the results without ever asking about the cause. See, cause and effect are always in the play. You don't get a result without there being a cause and a way that you got there. Nobody wants to talk about that. Everybody wants to be seen, everybody wants to be heard, but the black man does not have that same latitude. Anytime a black man talks about what's going on with him, it's an excuse. That's why I love Jason Wilson's book, Battle Cry, because Jason says when a black man tells you he's tired, believe him. And any man that's out there really truly trying to provide for his family, trying to take care of it. Look, when I talk about black men, I'm not talking about the black men that are scorning and scourging the community. I'm not talking about men who don't give a damn about their children. I'm not talking about men who are being abusive to their women. I'm not talking about men who think that women have a place in being subservient in a sense of being less than. I'm talking about men who are out here trying to do the right thing and are facing things that most people are unaware of or don't simply care about. I'm talking about the fact that there is, and has been for over 60 years, all types of different efforts that have underemployed and also kept black men unemployed at a higher rate than anybody else. And that has even led to ridicule, because the black man is unemployed because he's lazy. He doesn't want to work. And I know what it's like to be on both sides of the spectrum of being extremely successful financially and having to start over from scratch. Literally, I mean from scratch. Probably worse from scratch, because I was kind of looked out for and set up coming out of the house. I never had to scratch and scramble coming out of the house. My first move was a nice move that set me up and got me going. Okay, so I had to start from a worse position than ever. And I watched how people stared. I watched how people I had helped, I watched. People I had put down and put on, I watched as they watched me. And you can almost see in some of them, they were hoping that whatever the finishing blow was going to be, that they were waiting. The only reason they were in proximity was to see me finished off. But I disappointed them. And I have that resilience, but that resilience was there before I left home the first time. I just had never had to reach that deep. I've always had to fight to get things going, build stuff. I just never had to reach that deep. But I watched people watch me. Hell, the thing that gets me now is this idea that if a woman is married, she shouldn't be able to ask for help. So she shouldn't have to ask for help. So now families aren't allowed to ask for help. That's the same bullcrap that destroyed the family, the black family, a part of it in the first place. The idea that if you got a man, that he should be able to do everything. Yeah, the man is supposed to be able to handle business. But if he gets to a point for whatever reason that some things aren't right, there should be some people there, other men specifically, if we're going to talk about it, that's what I'm saying, it's not on my watch, dog. What can I do? But we have put man in a position, because we have commodified black men, that they are measured by their money. Nobody wants to admit they're subpar in their money because people ridicule them. So then they're sitting over there trying to scratch and fight and figure it out. And then if their wife goes out and asks for help, the first thing they get is, you got a husband. Well, this is what I did. So it doesn't sell with me. This is what I did for years. And when I'm in good situations, I still do it. But even with my daughter who was married, if my daughter came to me and said, hey, look, we're having a hard time, I say, does your husband know you're here? No. Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go back and tell him you came to me. Then you're going to send him. And the conversation that I had with her husband is the same thing I had with any man that I found out that I knew, or that I was in a position to help, or that specifically those who I knew, the women, and the women were letting me know that they were struggling financially, specifically financially. I said, tell them to come to me, or I'll go talk to them and I say, hey, look, I'm not trying to get in your business, but I understand it's getting a little rough right now. You don't have to sit over here. Let's talk. And if I felt like they were really out there grinding and trying to get it done, I called in favors. I put in what was needed for immediate help. I've saved houses. I've saved apartments. I've saved cars. I've done a bunch of that. Not once did I make the man feel like he wasn't shit in the process of doing it. Not once did I try to sell the woman on, you don't need to be with that nigga if he can't take care of you. I went to him because I know stuff happens. And this is before I hit my rough. This is before I knew it was going to happen to me. I just knew. I was taught by my grandfather, who did the same thing. You hold other men down because nobody else in this world sees you. That's where the whole black man head nod comes from. The head nod is something that emerged from the notion and idea that we're not allowed to look up and say anything to the white man. That's considered an act of aggression. We're not recognized as being human by anyone else. And so we got this thing where we acknowledge each other. We walking past each other, the head nod. Nobody knew what it was at first. But we're saying, I see you. In a world that doesn't see you, I see you. And we're out there. So the whole idea, that first thing, that's one of the things that pop into mind that black men are facing. They don't know where to go to ask for help because they don't know how their need for help is going to be perceived. And the last thing they need is, on top of everything, to be perceived as a loser, to be perceived as sorry, to be perceived as lazy. Some of them are working their butts off. I know times when I was out there and I was trying to come back, I'm up before everybody. I'm working before a person hits their alarm clock. I'm working. I'm fighting out of it. And eventually I got out of it. Eventually I got out of it. Very few people played any role in it, and the people that didn't look like me. And yet I'm still fighting for the people who do. They weren't relatives. They became friends because they just saw me working and saw the work I did. See, I kept working in the community. I didn't have what I used to have, but I kept working in the community. I set up a feeding system for the homeless people in Dallas while being homeless. I set up a clothing drive weekly for people at the bridge until the city shut it down because it was getting too crowded in the parking lot across the street. And anybody who knows Dallas knows what the bridge is. It's the largest homeless shelter there. I did that while being home. Nobody knew because I wouldn't show anybody that I was being beat up. Not that I'm ashamed, but I didn't want my work to be ineffective. I wanted people not to see me as needy, but to see me as a resource. And I fought my battle. The few people I told that looked like me either were indifferent or couldn't wait to ridicule me. And the thing is, all I needed was a slight push or a slight little stand up. I got that from people that didn't look like me. And I didn't ask for it. What I'm trying to get people to understand, every person out there that's struggling ain't a bad person, ain't a bad man. Every person out there that's having some emotional struggles isn't weak. Life will kick your butt and break you if you don't find a way to deal with it. Most of them don't have ways to deal with it, or they're afraid if they go ask for help, how they're going to be categorized and something, and I'm not asking for me, and me personally, I'm not asking for any black man, but I'm definitely not asking for any sympathy. Black men don't need sympathy, but they do need people to understand they're human. They're more than a paycheck, and they're more than some monster or animal that's been categorized by the narrative that that's all we are, of violent criminals. And we are so much more. To every brother out there, if you're striving to be right, if you're striving to do right, if you're striving to pick yourself up, I see you. I may not see you physically, but I see you spiritually. I see the representation of you in so many people that I help. I see the representation of you, and I am standing with you. If you need help, reach out. Anybody that laughs at you because you need help, we're never for you. Anybody that ridicules you because you need help, we're never for you. Anybody that anybody that tells you that you don't need help because you got a man without first talking to that man to find out what's going on. And number one is, you should know whether you got a good man or not. Whether you should know, is he out there grinding, trying to prove his love to you in his actions, or is he sleeping on your couch with his hand in his pocket? Do you see him get up every day and go to work? Do you see him reaching out, trying to find a way to make it? Is it something you can whisper in his ear? Or is it somebody you can call to connect him to? That's what it's about. It's teamwork. A man who's really about anything will die trying to do what he's supposed to for his people. Hell, I had 5 heart attacks on the way of building my stuff back up. I had 5 heart attacks in the course of a week. The day after returning home from the hospital, after having a surgical process to fix the blockage, I was back in my office working. Why? Because I couldn't depend on anybody. I couldn't let up. My family needed me to be on my best, at my best, and growing. I'm still fighting that fight to get better, to get stronger, to be more stable, to do everything I can in building what I'm building, because what I want from my family is so huge. And this isn't about me, because I'm going to make it. I'm going to fight. Unless I die, I'm going to get to where I have this thing to do. I'm so much further along than where I was. I'm blessed. But my whole thing is, how many of my brothers are out there looking for a safe space to decompress, to release, because they're not allowed to. They just have to sit in and say, I'm good. I'm cool. I'm all right. I had to start talking to people and tell them, look, man, I talk to you a lot. Nobody's all right all the time. Nobody's good all the time. But that's what we're trained to say. Because, see, complaining is a weakness. You know, complaining is seen as you're fishing for somebody to do something for you. Or saying, my thing is, it shouldn't be viewed that way. And as long as I got breath in my body, I'm going to be a resource. Now, I'm not just a resource to black men. I'm a resource, period. And anybody who knows me knows this. Even when I've been getting my ass kicked, I never shut the door to being a blessing to someone else. And that's probably why God has consistently blessed my efforts to get back. It has not been easy. I'm still fighting. But I'm in a position where a lot of people might want to be. But I'm nowhere where I need to be, or my family needs me to be, or my community needs me to be. But I guarantee you I'm not sitting where I was. Now, a lot of people are going to take this and they're going to make it be whatever they want it to be, because we've been trained and conditioned to feel a certain way about our own. But we'll line up and send money to UNICEF and United Way and all these other places, and then they don't do jack in our community. They don't do jack in the motherland. They just raise money on behalf of stuff. How much money was promised to repair Haiti the first time around? We on a second time around now, and never made it. How many homes was supposed to be built in Haiti, and we gave them people money, and ain't jack been built? They raided the coffers in Ferguson on the blood of Mike Brown. While the blood of Mike Brown was still on the street, they raided the coffers. They Black Lives Mattered it to death. And now we're finding out they were buying houses. And those weren't the other people. Those were some of our own people. But those are organizations that we felt cool. Why? Because they had big names and big hashtags. We heard of them. They made the people putting in the work, I can tell you that. The people putting in the work are people like Latava Montebalajingo. That's got a compound where she teaches everything from farming, homeschooling. Talking about a woman who homeschooled her kids, all of them. I think she has 8, all of them, and every last one of them are adult now and doing something with their lives. But one of the requirements to graduate that school is in the 11th grade, you had to start a business and run it successfully until you graduated. That was a part of it. We have people like that now opening up that type of teaching to other people. You've got Michael Jordan doing the work and feeding the homeless. You've got my partner, Michael Blanchard. You got so many people we've interviewed on the teachers that are doing work in the community. They don't have the support of the community, but they're doing the work in the community. The Black Man Lead, well, the Odyssey Project, period. Restoring Ghetto's Forgotten Daughters, the Black Man Lead, Music is Life program. I've been doing this for decades. Now, there was a point in time where I could fund it by myself and didn't even blink. And, you know, I'm gonna get back to where I can do it, because I'm just the kind of person, I don't have time to wait and to ask people to help on something that should be obviously needed. It's needed. Our black males are either destroying themselves or destroying something. We got a whole generation that's losing it. The suicidal ideation rate is enormous. The actual suicide rate has jumped 47% since 2013. Black males between the age of 15 and 24. We're losing on so many fronts because we simply don't want to get involved. But we are ready to ridicule. We're ready to blame. I had a situation where I've literally got thousands of videos all over social media. Just on this one channel, thousands. And over multiple channels, doing multiple things, I don't know how many. But just on this channel, I made a mistake. I believe it was last week, the beginning of last week, when I addressed that whole Channing Crowder calling Russell Wilson square. And I addressed the whole thing about calling men who treat women a certain way simps and corny and square and all of that, and where it came from and where we at. And I did that. And what happened was, I initially thought I uploaded that video, and so I had uploaded another video I did the same day, probably an hour earlier. I uploaded it to that, and I heard people saying, well, it's taking a while to get to it, and I'll do that. Another thing people accuse me of is it takes me a while to get to the point. I'm me. I'm going to be who I am. That's just it. So I'm thinking, okay, so I'm like, okay, just wait. You're going to get it. I'm going to give you everything. I couldn't remember exactly how the video went. Then I heard another person tell me, you know, I'm disappointed. This is clickbait. And I'm like, no, it ain't clickbait. And I almost said something then, but I didn't. And then another person came on and just ripped me, told me it's not a mistake. You did that, saying it's a mistake so you can promote your organization, because it was something about Black Men Lead that was on there. And you can support your organization and you can do this. I'm like, no, if you would have just did a little work and went and looked, you would have found that every video on the channel was about what it said it was about. You never even gave me the benefit of the doubt of having a mistake. You automatically assumed it. And even when I said it was a mistake, you dismissed it and made it be something, because that's what we're trained to do. We're trained to think the worst of our own and give everybody else a damn break. Look at Will Smith right now. There are at least 15 people in the academy, that has done far worse than Will. I'm talking raping kids, murdering wives, and are still a part of the academy. Not only did they not get a 10-year ban, they didn't get banned at all. And we're on the bandwagon and we're pushing for it because we've been trained. The moment we see a failure, they're misrepresenting our idea of what they're supposed to be. We go out and destroy. We don't give anybody a chance to be human, but we keep demanding it of others. You want somebody to know when you're having a hard time. You want somebody to know that you're not perfect, but we're not giving room. All of that stuff is catching up with us. We need to start loving on one another. We need to start supporting the programs that are going to do something in our community. I've proven the work on Black Men Lead. Dr. Blanchard and I have talked about it many times. I just need to be able to reach more men. I need to be able to bring other people on the train. I had a conversation about that today, about how it looks if we expand and teach other people and train other people to not only deal with the socialization part of the rite of passage program, but all the wraparound services that's needed right now, like mental health counseling, like mental health intervention. All of this stuff needs to be there, and we're working on that. And we're going to make it happen. We are going to make it happen. But it would definitely help if people got behind the program and said, hey, look, nobody's going to do this but us. And nobody is. Nobody's going to underwrite us becoming better. Too many people are benefiting from us not being okay. On that note, I'm out of here.